Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back once again to MCJ Report, this time for number 191. I hope that no matter where you are or what you're doing, you had a lovely weekend. And if you're tuning in for the first time, you're watching MCJ Report. I'm your host, Morgan C. Jonas. That's right, your fellow Victorian, fellow Australian, or fellow freedom-loving person if you happen to be tuned in from overseas. I also happen to be the leader of Freedom Party of Victoria, and as the name suggests, freedom, of course, is always the objective. Now, I see a bunch of you tuning in right now. I'd like to welcome you all to the show. I see some familiar names and I see some people here for the first time. So in order to help out with the algorithm, in order to get more eyeballs on the screen, because of course, us being independent media, we love to tell the other side of the story, otherwise left untold or very much sent in the wrong direction by the mainstream media. So go ahead and give the broadcast a share. Just go ahead and click the share button. Send it out, send it to your WhatsApp group, send it out to the Facebook pages, send it out wherever, ladies and gentlemen. Give your buddy Morgan a hand so that we can get a few more eyeballs on the screen. Alrighty, now, I see many of you active in the chat, so I'd like to welcome all of you who are watching across the several different platforms. Of course, I see Perth Freedom Fighters there, Big Matty, lots of familiar names. There's Dave, how you going? Great that you're on board. And you know what? You could be doing anything else with your Sunday night. That's right, literally anything else. But you're not doing anything else. You're here with me, and let me say that I very, very much do indeed appreciate that. Alrighty, so what is on the agenda for this evening, ladies and gentlemen? MCJ Report number 191. Of course, we are moving closer and closer to MCJ Report 200. Well, we've got a few things to talk about indeed. We're going to go through some general news. We're going to cover both Victorian, Australian, and also some international news. We're going to talk about Ukraine a little bit and a certain threat that the 2IC to the president made against China, which I think is quite interesting indeed. Now, for those of you paying attention, what we see here in Victoria, of course, at a local level, local government level, is the proliferation of what's referred to as drag queen story time for kids. But I have a feeling that these particular sessions will probably not be going on all that much longer. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Here in Victoria, we of course saw a big protest at the Monash City Council with many parents standing up, expressing their concerns over this particular practice. So we're going to have a talk about that. Also on the show this evening, very, very happy and proud to be joined by a friend of mine from New South Wales. His name is Michael Angelkovich. He has been fighting year in, year out for religious freedoms, to stand up for our children and to ensure that the values which upon our country were founded are not eroded and lost forever. Of course, here in Victoria, we know that we have many restrictions for people of faith, and of course the green light has been given to those on the other side of that equation that I say seek to do harm. But Michael has been a beacon of light in New South Wales, fighting year in, year out. So I'm very happy to say that we have Michael on the show. The last time we spoke with Michael was actually 2018, that's right, so pre-COVID, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I've been doing this pre-COVID. I didn't just jump on the bandwagon. So that will be coming up for the last segment of the show. And I'm just so happy when great people join us on MCJ Report. And of course, all we need are a few good people to stand up and for the rest of us to rally around those who are sticking their necks out. Alrighty, so I'm going to get started with some headlines. I'm just going to make sure that we are connected loud and clear. I can see that we definitely are fired up on all cylinders. So once again, if you just tuned in, I'm your host, Morgan C. Jonas. This is MCJ Report. Go ahead and give the broadcast a share. Help your buddy out. Alrighty, now to some headlines. All right, what do we have here? This is from last week. And by the way, I'd like to absolutely recognize everybody who showed their respects on Anzac Day, and even more respect for those who have served in our country. And I was very happy to see many of you at the dawn service, of course, last week. But this was a story from last week, and I think this really just indicates the very sad state of play in our country, whereby the very customs and traditions that make our country great, one by one, are under siege. Whether it's Australia Day, or being proud of the Australian flag, or simply being proud to be, well, a man or a woman. What we saw last week was there was a debate in relation to whether or not the last post should be played at AFL or NRL. Now, of course, we see this rising anti-Australian sentiment that seeks to undermine our culture, customs, and traditions. Now, I'd like to make it perfectly clear, ladies and gentlemen, that it is imperative that regular men and women of all parts of Australia, that we stand up against this assault on our country. We have a good country. We have a rich history. We have so much to be proud of. We have such a rich military history. That's right. And of course, we show the utmost respect to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for the country of which we now live. We do not want their sacrifices and their efforts to be in vain. All right. So whenever you see some silly debate like trying to cancel the last post or an assault on Anzac Day or Australia Day, like what we have seen over the past few years, it is up to everyday men and women to say no more. And of course, come next election, what do? You vote for Freedom Party of Victoria, and you vote to make our country great like it once was, but to create a pathway forward to an even better country for our children and future generations. Alrighty, moving along here. Just evil. Extinction Rebellion protesters slammed for blocking man needing cancer treatment. You know, this is pretty typical from these types of protesters. They've irked me for a long time. A lot of these people protesting, of course, they're straight out of university, or they don't particularly have jobs. They don't realize that the very vast majority of us actually need to earn money in this world. And we have a situation where a man was actually on his way to hospital and had been held up. But according to the Extinction Rebellion people, they believe that our world is going to end, just the same way as Al Gore predicted that by now Antarctica would be all but gone and the polar bears would have died off. So what do you make of this, ladies and gentlemen? What do you think about this dogmatic movement whereby, of course, we have these protesters who are really screaming doomsday? They're gluing themselves to roads. They're stopping everyday people from getting to work. But of course, when we were facing a real crisis of government, a real overreach of government power, as in over the past few years, where were the Extinction Rebellion protesters? They were happy to wither away in a dark corner in their homes, and they were willing to risk becoming extinct themselves. That's right. So I think it's pretty interesting to see them come out and to express their disgust with the trajectory of the government. But if the government happens to instruct these people to stay home because the boogeyman is after them, then you can expect that these particular protesters will stay home, and the staunch protesters will be, well, you know, out in the street doing it all over again. Anyway, moving along here, what do we have? Astonishing bombshell report contradicts Daniel Andrews' claims about the 2013 car crash. I mean, nothing's astonishing and nothing is a bombshell. If there's one thing we know without any doubt about the Victorian State Premier, is that you could not trust this man to pour a glass of water. I mean, the man is incapable of telling the truth. I see major sociopathic tendencies when it comes to Dan Andrews. Of course, he's become extremely good at protecting himself no matter where he goes, or should I say most of the time. He has a big entourage with him. And this man, this Premier of Victoria, you need to remember that his power has basically come from his capability to manipulate politics and to solidify his position in Parliament. And of course, when he's at a press conference and he's got 1,000 cameras in his face and lights and lots of reporters and security, he feels very, very powerful. But I know from personal experience that when you confront this man in person, he's actually not much. I mean, I just walked up to him in Frankston to have a little friendly discussion, and at the time he was very confused. He was very nervous. He walked around in a little circle, clearly very rattled. So let this just be a reminder that, you know, don't be surprised by anything in this world. And unfortunately, this story will come and go just like every other story. And unfortunately, we can't rely on IBAC to actually act with true and proper impartiality when it comes to the Premier. So what do? We bunker down. We keep on working. We get our ducks in a row. You go to freedomparty.net.au, you become a member, you get on board, you join me, you join the team, and we keep on marching forward because, of course, Victoria is worth fighting for. And characters, these slimy snakes like Daniel Andrews, they are unfit for office and I dare say unfit for participating in regular society. All right, moving along here. Support for the voice to Parliament really starting to grow. A headline there by the trustworthy news source Sky News. Anyway, catch my sarcasm. So why is the support growing, ladies and gentlemen? Is it because Australians have looked deep within their souls and they have found reason to support The Voice? Or do they support The Voice for similar reasons why so many people seem to support, let's say, Ukraine, or why so many people supported mask mandates? So clearly what we see going on here, ladies and gentlemen, is a concerted effort, okay, a unified approach to selling this concept to the Australian people. It's being pushed by big government, big corporates, everywhere you go, everywhere you look. The voices from above are telling the Australian people that supporting The Voice makes us more inclusive, right? So if you support The Voice, then you support a united Australia that is going to right the wrongs of the past. Yet nobody ever seems to be able to justify exactly how that will work. That's right, they say trust us, right? Anthony Albanese and those like him, and Dan Andrews, they say support The Voice, because if you don't, you're a nasty person. Now, you don't want to be a nasty person, right? So therefore, what do? Oh, you support The Voice. Now, if you're like me, you tend to question authority, particularly when the form comes in the way of government. So once again, just speak to your friends and family around the dinner table. When they say, yep, I support The Voice, ask them, why do you support it? And feel free to follow up with a few questions, and I guarantee their response will be something to the effect of, well, it's the right thing to do. Why is it the right thing to do, and what is it going to change? Nobody has the answer to that question. Is it going to stop crime in Northern Territory? Is it going to provide a safe environment for so many Aboriginal children that are out on the streets at night and really suffering so badly? Or are we going to see more of the same? Here's a better question. What happens annually to the multiple billions of dollars that are supposed to go to Aboriginal aid? Do they somehow line the pockets of those in the bureaucracies who are on huge government wages that have access to the public purse? No, you're not meant to talk about that, but we should be talking about it. So just keep fighting, keep pushing back, and don't let the system get you down. All right, what do we have here? Albanese gets swamped by angry locals during Hobart visit. I'm going to play this little clip right here. Yeah, I mean, I support it. Supposedly the locals there, they would prefer that the $240 million goes into public health rather than a sports stadium. So they've got every right to express their concerns. And whenever a politician that has overwhelmingly done the wrong thing since his time in office hits the public streets, I like to see when citizens give them a hard time. But I suppose, in contrast to advocating for more public health services, you know what I'd really like to see? I'd like to see an effort by the government to actually educate Australians on what it is to be healthy, so that maybe, just maybe in the future, we don't find the need to pour such huge amounts of money, billions of dollars, into our public health services. Just imagine how different our population would be if the government just reminded Australians to get plenty of vitamin D, to eat their vegetables, reminded Australians about the health implications of being obese, but they wouldn't want to do that. And why do you think that is? Well, I don't know. I'm asking you the question, but I can tell you that there is indeed an industry that would very much not like for the average man and woman to receive regular health advice, and that, of course, is Big Pharma. That's right. The big pharmaceutical organizations, they would prefer that you stay sick so they can keep cooking up their drugs and flogging it off to the people, with the hope that maybe there'll be another global mandate and they can sell billions of their products and the shareholders can become filthy rich. And yeah, sounds kind of like something that we just experienced, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Moving along here. Cutting ties with China is unthinkable, Mercedes-Benz CEO. Now, this is pretty interesting because, of course, China's rise has really only come about in the past few decades after some revolutionary changes, you could say, in China's economy, and followed up by the ushering into the World Trade Organization by Bill Clinton. China, of course, positioning itself as the world's global factory, I suppose you could say. Lots of people became rich in the process. Many countries were industrialized due to China's rise, Australia being one of them, due to a succession of trade agreements that, of course, saw the complete demise of our manufacturing and so much of our innovative sector over to China. And at the time, these trade agreements were sort of sold to the people of Australia and, of course, America and around the world sold to us in terms of the benefits of a so-called liberalized economy, the benefits of free trade, that supposedly by entering into these agreements, everybody throughout the supply chain would become better off. But of course, we know that's not the case. We look at Australia today, we don't make anything anymore. We see that the average family is struggling more so than any time ever before. We look at property prices that are more expensive, of course, than any other time in our history when compared to the average salary. Yet, of course, when we look to the top end of town and we look at the industries that keep Australia ticking over, such as predominantly mining, we see, of course, just a few people that became filthy rich, and the rest of us just sort of always struggling to keep up with the bills. So at this stage, I suppose cutting ties with China, it is unthinkable because we are, of course, so deeply embedded and reliant on the Chinese economy. Of course, we look at China, we're looking at the biggest consumer market in the world, 1.5 billion people. And, you know, the general sort of assumption, let's call it an assumption, that was sold to the public by the politicians was that by including China in the global economy, China would somehow democratize and and adopt democratic processes. But of course, it's been the complete opposite of that over time. China, of course, has doubled down. They basically have a president for life. I mean, maybe you could call him a dictator. You could possibly use that term. And, you know, at the stroke of a pen, China can shut down our industries, right? As they did cattle, barley, tourism. So, yeah, cutting ties with China, absolutely unthinkable. You can't do it. It's not a band-aid you can just rip off. It would literally destroy and collapse our economy. But there needs to be a very smart long-term plan for diversifying our economy, exploring different export markets around the world, really investigating which products here in Australia can be sold overseas and to which markets. And that's something our politicians have not done. And as a result of that, our economic complexity resembles a third world developing nation. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate to get into politics, because there's so much we can do in Australia. We have smart people, we have innovation. It's just a matter of tapping into the right markets around the world. And that job cannot be done by someone like Daniel Andrews or Anthony Albanese. All right, staying on China, Zelensky's top advisor issues threat to China. This is pretty funny. Mikhail Podolak claims that Beijing will suffer a loss in status if it maintains its friendship with Russia. That's right, so it's all about Russia. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's most prominent advisor has claimed that China must follow the West's position on Ukraine, or it will find its standing in the world diminished and its economic power weakened. I mean, pretty empty words here. Of course, Ukraine, a pretty small country when looking at, say, China, a population of 1.5 billion people, an absolutely massive military. And of course, we see this emerging alliance between China and Russia, not necessarily out of any mutual friendship, more so out of a mutual enemy they have, i.e. the United States. And we see this type of language, I suppose, just echoing sentiment from the United States. And it's this type of sentiment that has led some people to consider that maybe Ukraine is just a proxy state of the United States. Not saying that it is, but sometimes it certainly appears to be that way. So where do you think it's all heading, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think that we're heading towards a war? I don't see the conflict in Ukraine slowing down anytime soon. I don't see China taking its foot off the accelerator in terms of its declared intent to invade Taiwan. Do you see Australian troops getting involved if Taiwan is invaded? I don't think there's possibly a way that we can't be involved when you look at Taiwan's position in the world and the global trade that passes around Taiwan and the South China Sea being one third of global trade per annum. There's just too much money involved. So like it or not, I do think that the world's heading towards some pretty severe conflict, and these types of statements, even though they seem kind of funny coming from a small nation, I think it paints a much bigger picture of the geopolitical and sort of geo-military conflict that is definitely going to come probably in the not so distant future. All right, who here saw this? Tucker Carlson sacked from Fox News. Literally their most popular guy, Tucker Carlson, a guy that I like to watch. Always smart, he's funny, he's well presented. You know, he's got great compelling arguments. Pulls in millions of viewers to Fox News. So what does the Murdoch family do? They sack him, they get rid of him because apparently he's too extreme. So, you know, when you've got the world's most prominent, say, conservative news outlet in the world getting rid of one of the most popular conservative commentators, you know that there's a pretty severe problem. But this just illustrates the fact, ladies and gentlemen, that it will be independent media that leads the way into the future. I mean, you've got mainstream media, even, you know, so-called conservative media, literally censoring some of the world's most prominent voices. And I think that it's a massive mistake from Fox News, and I think it's just another nail in the coffin for the mainstream media establishment. All right, now this is pretty interesting. Staying on the topic of the United States, Biden greenlights deployment to Mexican border. The US president signed an order allowing active duty reserve troops as needed to fight international drug trafficking. Well, maybe all of a sudden Mr. Biden is sitting back in his chair thinking that, you know what? Maybe Donald had a point about building that wall. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? This just goes to show that the state of affairs in America, completely unhinged, completely out of control. You look at the Democrat-led states, and we're seeing one tent city pop up after another, particularly around Los Angeles and different places in California. Lots of drugs flowing in, of course, from Mexico through the southern border and all the drug cartels that come with it. Lots of illegal migration. And it's really the Republican states that are tougher on law and order that seem to be holding policies that are safeguarding citizens against these types of crimes more so than the Democrat states. But even Joe Biden, right, a Democrat president, he simply can't ignore it anymore and has given the green light to deploy troops. Now, I can guarantee you that if it was Trump in office and Trump sent the troops to the border, he'd be called every single name under the sun, wouldn't he, ladies and gentlemen? He'd be called an immigrant murderer or something like that. And of course, the act of national security would be misconstrued with some sort of, you know, trying to connect dots that don't exist, racism sort of thing, which of course we see thrown around so much these days that unfortunately such serious allegations in many instances have actually lost their meaning. So I wonder what will happen with the United States. Put your thoughts in the comment. Do you think that Joe Biden will be able to take control of the southern border, or do you think the situation is already too far out of control? All right, here's an interesting article right here. COVID-19 vaccine claims yield small payouts from US government. Look at this. Of more than 8,000 people who filed claims with the federal government alleging injuries from COVID-19 vaccines, 3 have now received cash payments, new government data shows. Their combined compensation, less than $5,000. So what do you think this says, ladies and gentlemen? 8,000 vaccine injury claims, only 3 people received compensation. So the government essentially claiming that 7,997 of those claims, no, bogus, you got injured from something else, could have been a mosquito bite, you slipped on a banana peel last week, had nothing to do with the jab. Now, do you think the government data is accurate, or do you think there's something else going on here? Go ahead and put your thoughts in the comments. But I think that, let's just say that out of 8,000 claims, I'm going to create a hypothetical scenario for you. Let's just say that out of 8,000 claims, 2,000 of those claims were awarded compensation. By virtue of such a large allocation of compensation, what has the government effectively admitted in such a hypothetical scenario? Well, they would have admitted that, I guess, 2 out of 8, that's 25% of these claims were actually legitimate injuries, and that maybe, just maybe, the advice that was given by the government so early on in relation to the whole safe and effective thing was not actually the right advice. So if there's one thing the government will not do by any means necessary, they'll never admit that they were wrong, even if human lives are on the line, even if human lives have been destroyed, even if human lives have been lost. That's right. They will never, ever admit that they were wrong. And only with a monumental effort of the people can we create a tidal wave to back these thugs, these unfit operators into a corner. And that's exactly what we need to do. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, any type of monumental shift in a society was not created by government. It was created by the people. Alrighty, protesters clash over drag storytime event at Melbourne Council meeting. Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, we see here in Victoria, one council after another hosting these so-called drag queen storytime sessions for children. And by the way, I wonder how much these, let's just call them performers, are actually making. I heard some of them are making into the 6 figures for annual contracts going from one council district to another. But of course, so many parents and even non-parents disagree with this practice and are standing up and protesting, which is of course a democratic right and something that we're all entitled to do by virtue of living in a supposedly free country. We're going to talk about that more so on the show as we get into it, but I'm going to come back to this one. And in the meantime, make you aware of a report that was published. That's right, courtesy of RT.com. Look at this. This is interesting. I'm just going to read you what it says, all right? And you go ahead and put in the comments what you make of it, all right? I'm not going to tell you what to make of it. Fewer heterosexual US teens than ever. A record number of high school students now identify as gay, lesbian, or something other than straight, ladies and gentlemen. What is going on here? It goes on to say, a new report by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has found that a quarter of US high school students identify as homosexual, bisexual, questioning a figure that has more than doubled since 2015. Why has it doubled from 2015? And why have these figures not doubled in Russia and China, but they have doubled in the US and presumably Western countries like Australia? Why would that be? I don't know. Let's keep reading here. Goes on to say, based on the data collected in 2001 and released on Thursday, the CDC's report found that 72.4% of high schoolers identify as heterosexual, down from almost 90% in 2015. 3.2% identifies gay and lesbian, 12% as bisexual, and 9% as other or questioning. So, it goes on to say just over 7% of the US adult population identifies as LGBTQ. But of course, that number will drastically rise as these young people become adults, right? All right, so it goes on to say, according to a Gallup poll published in February, this figure has risen with each passing generation. 20% of Generation Z, those born between 97 and 2004, identifying as LGBTQ compared to 11.2% of millennials, 3.3% of Generation X, which is, I think that's my generation, and then 2.7% of baby boomers, and 1.7% of those born before the end of World War II. So as you see, these rates just skyrocketing, but it only seems to be in the West. It's not happening in other countries, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty. Anyway, we're going to get started with some of our feature segments. In the meantime, if you support my work, if you support what I do, if you like what I'm doing with Freedom Party of Victoria, and of course, I haven't taken a break. My foot is still on the accelerator. Looking forward to the next state election, the next battle. I'm in this for the long run. If you think that MCJ Report provides a valuable service to the community, then please consider supporting my work. I don't have any corporate sponsors. There's no big billionaires just throwing money at MCJ Report. It all depends on your contributions. Now, you can contribute from $5 per month. That's right. The link is in the description, mcjreport.com. Click on memberships. And if you become a member, you get special membership emails. There's membership events, things like that. And of course, it allows me to do my work and to continue this fight in my maximum capacity. Now, if you're going through a difficult time, do not contribute, all right? I do not want people contributing to MCJ Report, contributing to my work if the bills are an absolute priority right now. Please look after your own affairs, and if things get better, you can support MCJ Report then. But if you can, membership starts from $5 per month, mcjreport.com. Get on board, support what I do so that I can act in my maximum capacity. And of course, Freedom Party of Victoria. Some people thought, oh, they're going to go away. Morgan's going to go away. Morgan's going to just go and cry in a dark corner for the rest of his life because Dan Andrews is still Premier. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Rome was not built in a day. We're still here. We're still fighting. And we are looking forward. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Victoria is our home. We're going to fight for it with every single ounce of energy in our bodies. And I want you to join me and the team, which is growing. We're launching branches all around Victoria. We are getting straight back to business. And I want you to be on our team. So if there's one thing you do today, go and sign up at freedomparty.net.au. Get on board because, as I said, great change in any society only comes about with a great collective effort of regular people. And believe me, Freedom Party of Victoria, we are the number one enemy of the Daniel Andrews Labor government, as illustrated by Labor's How to Vote cards, which had Freedom Party dead last on every single How to Vote card. I say that's something to be proud of. We're the winning team. Get on board, and I'll see you at the next Freedom Party meeting. Alrighty, so let me just make sure that we're connected all right. I'm going to start jumping to our various segments. I see Rumble is connected. I see Facebook is connected, and YouTube is actually connected as well. All right, awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. Let's get to it. Where are we? Alrighty, so this is a little bit unrelated, but I'd hate to think that anyone out there in MCJ world, Facebook world, Freedom Party world is falling for scams. Now, every time you turn on Facebook, YouTube, or any social media, chances are that you'll see some video trying to convince you to participate in some type of high return investment opportunity. Now, I saw a video the other day that made me laugh. This video has, it's designed to try and scam unsuspecting people out of their money using the faces of notable billionaires such as Gina Reinhardt with a really, really bad voiceover. And I just hate to think that anyone's getting fooled by it. I'm going to play you the clip and put your thoughts in the comments what you think about these types of scam attempts.
Andrew Twiggy Forrest, Gina Reichart, and Dick Smith created an investment platform aimed at improving the lives of all investors, as stated by the founders. Reliable and has made more than one family's fortune.
Thank you for telling, showing on TV, and bringing people the information about our new platform. Anyone can invest in it, starting at $250. In a month, you can earn about $17,000. Invest. You won't regret it.
Twiggy Forrest spoke to people about why they did this.
This is a huge opportunity right now. Every Australian should forget about debts, loans, their problems. We have everything we need to help you. That's why we decided to do it. Invest only $250 and live happily. You deserve it.
As Andrew Forrest said, you can start investing with $250, but Dick started with $610.
Exactly right, yes. I started off with $610, not very much money.
Invest and earn. Good luck.
Yeah, completely fake, obviously, ladies and gentlemen. But apparently, it's not against the community standards on the social media platform where it was posted. Obviously, it's completely fake. No, Twiggy Forrest and Gina Reinhardt are not putting forward so-called investment opportunities. And a dead giveaway was, of course, $250, right? Not $250. So, unfortunately, I have heard of some people getting scammed as of recently. Some people getting scammed a lot of money. So please be aware. And as a rule of thumb, if somebody calls me on the phone and claims to be from my bank or a financial institution that maybe I deal with, I hang the phone up. I do not take these phone calls. I speak to these people on my terms, and the same should apply to you and people that you know. So you get a call that says, hey, we're from the West Bank. No. You hang up on these people, because as my fellow freedom fighting patriots, I don't want you to get scammed. All right. Victorians stand up for children's rights. Now, I'm going to play the video clip in just a minute. Now, if you live in Victoria, you know without any doubt that the so-called drag queen story time sessions for children are being rolled out all over the state. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a few questions, of course, that come about with these particular operations. First of all, why? Why does it have to be drag queens? Why do we need adult content in front of children? I'd much prefer to see, say, stories told by our heroic first responders in front of children. Who here likes the idea of that? Maybe our paramedics, maybe firefighters, our veterans, those who have served in our military. And of course, we look at these drag queen story time sessions for children. They have become prolific, not just here in Victoria, but all over the Western world. And some of them are becoming very, very explicit and have moved on from simply a drag queen telling a story, right, which I don't support. Just full disclosure, I want these sessions gone. I don't believe these types of performances should ever be in front of children. But we've seen in some instances these story sessions turning into very explicit shows and dances of a sexual nature. Now, what we want, and I know that I speak on behalf of so many Victorians, is we want to protect and preserve the innocence of our children. That's right. So this pushback against these drag queen story times for kids, this has nothing to do with, let's just say, people who have differing lifestyles, all right? No one is saying that we want to throw drag queens in jail. No one is saying that we want to throw cross-dressers in jail, etc. We just don't want these shows in front of children. Now, we probably agree that if grown consenting adults want to conduct these types of shows in front of each other behind closed doors, then that's their business. They go and do it, have fun, and go and have a nice day. It's not about that. No one is out to get these people. What we're saying is that we must protect the innocence of children. Children should be free to grow up without these types of notions being artificially inserted into their minds. And we need to be asking ourselves the question, what type of person, what type of adult seeks to perform such acts in front of children? Okay? What type of adult seeks to facilitate an environment for other adults to perform these types of acts in front of children? I say that it's predatory. I say that it's grooming. It absolutely needs to stop. And I am so proud of the many Victorians who have now started protesting at a local council level to bring an end to these practices. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, protest is a human right. Protest is a democratic right. We don't believe that these practices should be going on. We believe that children should be left to be children. It's really as simple as that. If somebody wants to be a drag queen, you go and do that. That's fine. No one's going to tell you not to do it, but not in front of children. Now, I've got a little clip here. I'm going to play it for you right now. Go ahead and take a look.
Shame on you! 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 Shame on you!
I'm busy, maybe later on. No, probably. I'm busy.
Now, you guys are going to under attack. I want to understand why you think drag is a public corruption. And you guys say that that it's Nazi and that you're under attack. Why do you want this? What do you want kids? What do you want? Once you're old, exposed to drag.
It's not funny. It is not funny. Everyone's entitled to their own. They should not need to be I don't think you actually have a
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so very proud of my fellow Victorians for taking a stand. All right. We're never going to accept this as normal because, of course, this is just opening up a can of worms that should never, ever be opened up. And whose idea was it to implement these programs in the first place? We don't see such programs or these sort of story times going on in, say, Russia or China. It seems to be exclusive to the West. We need it gone. We need it done away with. We need children to be children. And wherever councils are hosting these drag story time events for children, which is courtesy of the ratepayer, and I don't know how many ratepayers voted for that. I can tell you right now, if you're a local council or you're in local government, if you're facilitating these programs, no matter where or when you do them, there is going to be a large group of protesters, and there is nothing you can do to stop these people from showing up. Victorians have big hearts. We are standing for our children and future generations. We're not going to back down from this until these so-called programs are scrapped to never return. And speaking of which, I'm very proud to lead into the next segment of our show. There is a man indeed who is doing something about it and has been fighting for children's rights and for religious freedoms for many, many years. That's right. This man is a friend of mine. His name is Michael Angelkovich from New South Wales, and he was one of the very first guests on MCJ Report all the way back in 2018. That's right, before COVID. And Michael has been a relentless advocate for our freedoms. He has coordinated such large numbers of campaigns. He's been politically active, and he's not taking his foot off the accelerator. I sat down with Michael a little bit before to speak about religious freedom and freedom for children in New South Wales, and of course freedom for parents to raise their children in accordance with their values, because in New South Wales, right, they're looking at similar types of legislation to what we already have here in Victoria. As many of you are probably aware, here in Victoria, parents can be reprimanded by the law and effectively be looking at jail time should they seek to, I suppose, coach, counsel, or seek counselling for their children who might be confused about topics that include but are not limited to gender. That's right, parents can actually go to jail for trying to help their kids. And Michael does not want that legislation in New South Wales, and he's put forward a petition to the Parliament, which is really important to get behind. You'll see the link in just a moment. So if you're watching from New South Wales, please support Michael. And I'm going to play the discussion we had. It goes for about 10-15 minutes. So without further ado, I introduce to you Michael from New South Wales. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are very proud and humbled to be joined once again, actually for the second time on MCJ Report, with Michael Angelkovich. Michael, welcome back to the show. The last time you were on MCJ Report, I believe, was actually in 2018, pre-COVID. So very, very happy to have you back. And Michael, you've been doing tremendous work up there in New South Wales. And as we know, all over the country, our religious freedoms are very much under siege by, dare I say, people in office who would probably like to do away with God and a whole lot of other things as well. Now, you have been a fighter in this arena for many, many years, but things have increased to a new level, I understand, in New South Wales with religious freedoms under siege. You've headed up a petition. I can see you've got nearly 8,000 signatures. Now, could you please talk to us a little bit about why you've put this petition forward in the time that you have and why it's so critical?
Thanks, Morgan. Yes, I remember the first time I was on your report back in 2018, a long time ago. As you say, different times, pre-COVID, and one of your early shows. So thank you for having me back after all this time. And it was good to catch up with you in Singleton a little while ago when you came up for your trip. So thank you for allowing me to speak. The parliamentary petition I've set up to support the religious freedom legislation in New South Wales is very, very important. This goes back to 2019 when I first started in this arena. So April 2019, this legislation has been debated in quite a lot of detail. Went through various religious leaders and communities. It went through a joint select parliamentary committee where it was put forward in mid-2020, and then a report was brought down in March 2021. 192 written submissions, 5 days worth of testimonies. I was one of the people that was a witness at the hearings, and over 20,000 submissions to a survey. Now, the reason this is very, very important is the legislation wasn't passed. It was recommended to be set up and approved and to be in place by the end of 2021. It was never enacted. So New South Wales is one of two states that doesn't have any protection for people of faith. So you can not be discriminated against for various things, race, gender, sexual identity, etc., but not for religion. So very simply, you can walk into a cafe, say a prayer or have a Bible or a Quran or whatever, and you can be asked to leave. and not to come back. That's that simple in New South Wales. So this act or this petition is to support a change in legislation. And the reason it's important is this is our last opportunity. At the previous Liberal government basically didn't want to do anything with this amendment until the federal legislation was looked at, and that's now been kicked. That can's been kicked up the road, and the Liberal Party are no longer in power anyway here in New South Wales. The Labor Party has said, Chris Minns has said that he wants a full review of the Anti-Discrimination Act. It could take 12 months or more before that's commenced. It could take 2 years or more before that's completed, which means nothing's going to be done in this term of government, in my opinion. So if we hit 20,000 signatures on a legislation that's been recommended to the Parliament by a joint 11 out of 14 members of the Joint Select Committee, it has to be debated. It's the last chance for people of faith to be able to get some parliamentary debate around this topic. And on a second note, it also means for parents where they want to protect their kids, it's another way of them ensuring that they have a voice in Parliament where, once again, those issues around the whole LGBT situation with kids, where they want to, people of religion want to have their kids left alone, that they can have a voice and a debate in Parliament as well. So as you say, we're creeping up toward the 8,000 mark. We need to get 20,000, and we only have until the 11th of May to do that. So if you can, you've got the link, the short link, which I know that hopefully you'll be able to put up on the screen. It's www.tinyurl, one word, .com/RADLPP. So that's the link, that's a short link to the petition, and you'll be able to get some information on that. You have to be a resident of New South Wales in order to sign this petition because it's a New South Wales parliamentary petition. But that's why it's very, very important, Morgan.
It is very important. And for everybody watching at home, the link to the petition is in the description of this video. Now, Michael, I'd like you to paint a snapshot, if you will. What will life look like for people of faith, and even, I suppose, people who simply want to not have their children exposed to what one could describe as radical content in schools? What will life look like for everyone? Should the religious protections for regular people not be upheld in New South Wales, and should New South Wales continue down the road of actually eroding these freedoms?
Well, basically, Morgan, what's going to happen is that there are no protections for Christians, people of faith. So irrespective of your faith, there are no protections against discrimination for people of faith, which means that the left, the cultural Marxists, the LGBT community, the rainbow community can basically go on their merry way and be protected and be exempt, and yet Christians and people of faith can't. They can be discriminated against. And so it's the whole reason behind this amendment was because people of faith and Christians, we don't want special laws or we don't want special treatment. We want equal treatment. So if you can not be discriminated against because of race, gender, colour, etc., disability, then you shouldn't be able to be discriminated against based on your faith either.
And I could not agree with you more, Michael. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, the link to the petition is in the description of this video. So if you are in New South Wales, then go ahead and sign it. Michael has been a champion of this cause for many, many years. And of course, as the years roll on, we see the attacks ramping up more and more. Now, Michael, in addition to signing this survey, what else can the people of New South Wales do to protect their religious freedoms and, of course, to protect their kids?
Well, look, this is the beginning. So if we start off with getting this petition up with the 20,000 signatures required, the other point is that you can, now that we have a newly elected government, And if you want to make a difference, send an email to your local member of parliament saying that you want the Religious Discrimination Amendment Bill enacted. Even better, hop on the phone and talk to them. Or better yet, pop down to their office and also have a chat to them and say, we want protection against religious discrimination. We don't want to wait until the whole Discrimination Act is reviewed and the report put out in 2, 3, 4 years' time. There's legislation that's already been looked at. It was proposed in the mid-2019. As I said, it went to a full parliamentary committee. I was involved in a lobby group of 40 major faith leaders. I was a representative for the Serbian Orthodox bishop, and I went to all those meetings and all those committee meetings, so I'm well aware of what went on. This legislation went through Christian churches, so we've got Catholics, Anglicans, Methodists, Presbyterians, Baptists, etc., Orthodox faith, Greek, Russian, Serbian, Antiochian, Coptic. The Muslim, both Shia and Sunni, went through it. There was Hindu representatives. We had some Buddhist representatives as well. So look, the major faith groups all agreed with it. The majority of the committee members all agreed with it. They went through. They put in a report. The Joint Select Committee put out 11 findings and 4 key recommendations, which need to be put through, and they were agreed with. And what more can I say? I mean, as I said, from 2019 until now, I've basically invested a lot of time and effort into making sure that this has been pushed forward. Unfortunately, it didn't go ahead back in 2021, and I've basically timed this now so that unfortunately we had some issues with Easter in the way, Ramadan in the way, so people were distracted. But we've got 11 days basically to get an extra 12,000 signatures, and so this is the push. So we are getting support from a few areas.
So ladies and gentlemen, and people of New South Wales, you've got nothing to lose. Michael has dedicated countless amounts of hours, days, weeks, months, years, absolutely, over the past few years to this cause, standing up for your freedom, standing up for religious freedoms, and of course the right for all people to raise our children in accordance to our values. So once again, the link to the petition is in the description of this video. If you are in New South Wales, please support this cause, support religious freedom, support our kids, and support Michael's great work. Go and sign it. Now, Michael, before we wrap this little interview up, I'm going to throw a little curveball at you. Now, obviously, you're in New South Wales, I'm in Victoria. So before I go, do you have any messages that you'd like to convey to the Victorian State Premier, Daniel Andrews?
Daniel, thank you for teaching us about the conversion therapy legislation. It's coming to New South Wales and we're prepared for it. So you've given us a head start. Unfortunately, Victoria is stuck with it, but we're going to make sure that we've got some changes to that and make sure that it's not there. And look, Victorians, if you don't like your little state there in Victoria, you're welcome to come to New South Wales. I watched the lockdown situation there in Victoria, and my heart goes out to everybody. And what a great fight that was fought. And it's good to see that you're coming out of it. We're now mainland Australia is painted red in all states, federally and state-wise. But I'm hoping that this is going to be a lesson for the population, and hopefully at the next elections we'll start to turn things around.
I could not agree with you more, Michael, and to everyone in Victoria. We need the fighters to stay here, so don't go to New South Wales. Stay in the fight. Daniel Andrews is a big beast, and the beast needs to be slayed, so we need as many fighters as possible. Michael, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you back on the show. Really great to see you a couple of months ago, of course, in Singleton, New South Wales. Keep us updated, and we hope to have you back on the show again really soon.
Thank you. And good luck with your Freedom Party, because when it comes to Liberal and Labor, our saying up here is Liberal Labor, same. They're both the same, at the moment.
Couldn't agree with you more, Michael.
All right. Thanks, Morgan. Appreciate you.
All right. A massive thank you to Michael. Thank you for doing what you do for so many years. So, ladies and gentlemen from New South Wales, please go ahead and sign the petition. It is for such an important and critical cause. The link to the petition is in the description of this video. Support the cause. Get behind Michael. He's doing such important work. And together, let's make things right. Alrighty, so ladies and gentlemen, that just about brings us to the end of the show. That's right. I'd like to thank all of my regular viewers and everybody tuned in for the first time. That's right. We're live across Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. So a massive, massive thank you. Thank you to the MCJ audience. Thank you to the Freedom Party people out there. It is most definitely you. You are the reason why I do what I do. So thank you very, very much for sticking in there. Yeah, just, you just got to roll with the punches in this world. And when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And that's right, we are the tough, and we're going to make it work, aren't we, ladies and gentlemen? So that just about brings it to an end. Now, once again, let me just pop this on the screen here. Freedom Party of Victoria, we are not moving backwards. That's right. We are rolling out branches. We are getting mobilized. We are taking the necessary measures that we need to take in order to craft a pathway forward for us here in Victoria. So go ahead and sign up, freedomparty.net.au. I want you on the team so that we can go ahead and take our country back together. Also, if you'd like to support the show, the link is in the description for supporting the show. You can become an MCJ Report member for just $5 per month. And of course, you'll receive the membership updates. And by your contribution, that will allow MCJ Report to continue so that I can act in my capacity to effect change and to do the things I do in Freedom Party Victoria, MCJ Report. Of course, it all takes a lot of time and resources. So any way that you can help out will help me to help you. So head on over to mcjreport.com and become a member, and I'll see you really soon. Alrighty, so that brings us to the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that everyone had a nice weekend. Hope you've got a great week planned, no matter where you go or what you do. Keep the faith, keep fighting. We're going to win this. It's going to be a glorious victory, that's right, and it will just be a matter of time for those who have done wrong to meet their justice, and meet their justice they will in one way, shape, or form. I just think that it's going to happen. So lots of love. Take care. mcjreport.com. I will catch you on the next episode. Have a great evening.
Mm-hmm.